Good morning, friends. I again welcome you for our next lecture on criticism. Friends, in the previous lectures, we have already discussed literature of knowledge and power, Plato, Aristotle, Longinus, Dante, and Sir Philip Sidney. And today, we want to discuss another important critique of the Elizabethan age, and that is Ben Jonson. Friends, Ben Jonson is a noted poet and a dramatist than a critic. The students of literature remember Ben Jonson more as a poet or as a dramatist than a critic. And whatever criticism he has written this in order to support his work as a poet and as a dramatist. Otherwise, Ben Jonson was not much interested in the field of criticism. Ben Jonson, living during 16th century, Elizabethan age, is also known for his comedies, particularly comedy of humors. When you are studying in first, second semesters, we discussed that Ben Jonson is the pioneer of the comedy of humors. In his times, in Elizabethan age, Shakespearean comedies were very popular, but Ben Jonson was an outstanding literary personality who did not want to follow the trend, and he carved a special niche for himself, and he innovated the art of writing comedy, and as a result he produced the comedy of humors. Ben Jonson has written plenty of criticism in his poems, plays. Sometimes he has written some prefaces to his plays. And the most outstanding of his contribution to criticism is Timber and Discoveries. Timber or Discoveries, both are one and the same work, but different titles are available to us. It is one of his most famous critical works. In this particular critical work, he wanted the writers to write well, not by chance but by their knowledge. Ben Jonson's all plays are modeled on the Latin drama, and in his criticism he seems to follow Aristotle and Horace Walpole. His Timber or Discoveries is a collection of some notes that he made from time to time. And this Timber or Discoveries, these notes on poetry, on drama, which he wrote many a times, they were posthumously published. Posthumously means they were published after his death, after 4 years after his death. So we as the students of criticism of English literature are mainly concerned with what Ben Jonson has written in these discoveries or in this timber. Ben Jonson is generally known as a classical critique. Why? Because Ben Jonson's most ideas are rooted in Greek criticism, are rooted in the ancient classical criticism. Ben Jonson was a man, was a poet, was a dramatist who believed in the strict adherence to the rules and regulations. And Jonson did not like the classic for their own sake, but he wanted to raise the English drama to a standard where it can reach the level of Greek drama or Latin drama. So for Ben Jonson, Greek drama and Greek poetry, ancient poetry and Latin poetry, Latin literature were the ideal kind of literature. So in short, you can say that Ben Jonson believed in ancient literature. He was a follower of ancient times, and that is why Jonson is considered as a classical critique. According to Ben Jonson, English literature had much passion in it, much imagination in it, and expression in it. But he believed that this passion, imagination, and expression, these are the important things in literature, but they are too much in excess. Even Shakespeare had everything in excess according to Ben Jonson. Excess means too much. When a poet is using too much imagination in literature, then it becomes a fancy literature. It doesn't become a serious literature. That's what Jonson believed. And Jonson found well-tried law in poetics. In his timber or in his discoveries, he talks about the need of the unity of action and unity of time. He believed that a dramatist must follow the unity of action and time. Now, when we examine the plays of William Shakespeare, we feel and we find that Shakespeare has violated the unity of action and time many a times in his plays. Though Shakespeare is considered as the father of English tragedy, though Shakespeare is considered as the most outstanding literary personality of the Elizabethan age and of the entire English literature, but still there are some loopholes, there are some drawbacks in his plays which Ben Jonson points out. Ben Jonson believed that the dramatist must follow the unity of time and unity of action. Unity of time means, sometimes the dramatist, one time is presented, one time in the life of the character is presented by the dramatist, but then there is a flashback. Again, we come back to the present, and again there is a flashback in past. Okay, sometimes the spectators, the viewers, the readers are taken to the future, sometimes to the present, sometimes again to past. So when there are so many changes in time, it might create confusion in the minds of the readers. So such violation of unity of time must not be presented according to Ben Jonson. Moreover, he also talks about the unity of action. He said that all the actions which are imitated by the dramatist in the play, these actions must have a proper unity. All actions must be logically connected with one another. And that is what Aristotle also believed. When Aristotle talks about the importance of plot construction in tragedy, Aristotle discusses this idea and says that plot is a logical arrangement of events. If there is no logic among the events which are presented, if there is no proper logical link among the events which are presented by the dramatist, then that drama is not going to be an effective drama. So Ben Jonson, in the beginning of this lecture I told you, is a classical writer who mostly follows the ideas of Aristotle and Horace Walpole. And that's why Ben Jonson also believes that the dramatist must follow the unity of time, unity of place, and unity of action. In Shakespeare's plays, you find that Shakespeare has violated the unity of place and time many times. A plot, according to Ben Jonson, must have a proper beginning, a proper middle, and proper end. Now, here also, Ben Jonson seems to follow Aristotle's idea, because when we were discussing Aristotle's definition of tragedy, we discussed that Aristotle believed and strongly believed that the actions must be complete in themselves. And by the word complete, he wants to say that the actions must have a good beginning, a good middle, and a good end. So here also Ben Jonson is following the ideas of Aristotle, the ancient Greek critique. According to him, action in a comedy or a tragedy should be fit to the subject matter. It should give rise to the conclusion of the play. So here he is talking about the unity of action. He says that the action must be presented in such a manner that it leads to some new actions, and these new actions lead to the conclusion or the catastrophe of the play, end of the play. Another important thing Ben Jonson has mentioned in his discoveries is that he says that a play can exceed the 24 hours time because life has so many digressions, so art can also have digressions. Here Ben Jonson differs from the ideas of Aristotle, because Aristotle believed that the actions which are imitated by the tragedy writer must have a certain magnitude. By certain magnitude, he wants to say that the drama must be finished within one single revolution of the sun. That means the time which is presented from the life of the tragic hero on the stage must not exceed 24 hours. But here Ben Jonson says that our life is full of conflicts. Our life has so many digressions. That's why, if a tragedy writer, if a comedy writer allows the time more than 24 hours from the life of the tragic hero, that is okay, and that is allowed by Ben Jonson in his theory of drama. Apart from this, Ben Jonson has also talked and discussed about the important qualifications of a poet. Jonson here follows the ideas of Sir Philip Sidney and says that a poet is a maker. a poet is a maker or a creator, means poets are as good as gods. He calls poetry as the queen of arts. There are so many arts. We have the art of writing poetry, art of writing drama, art of writing novels, okay, art of writing essays, and other fine arts, art of painting, art of dancing, art of sculpture. But among all these arts, Ben Jonson believed that art of writing poetry is the queen art of writing poetry. There are 5 requirements for a good poet according to Ben Jonson. And these 5 requirements are: number 1, nature, because he says that what he should be by nature, by exercise, by imitation, by study, and by art. Ben Jonson believes that if anyone wants to master the art of writing poetry, if anyone wants to be an important poet, then he must have these 5 things in him. He can be a great poet by nature, number 1. By nature. By nature means he must have some natural qualities. You remember when we were discussing Longinus and his ideas on sublime and his 5 sources of sublime, we discussed that Longinus said that a poet needs 2 things, talent and genius. And genius means what? Natural gift, natural capabilities. Okay. So, Longinus also believed that the grandeur of thought and strong emotions, these are the 2 things which a man cannot learn from anywhere. This is natural. These 2 things are natural. So, if you want to be a great poet, you must have this natural gift. Number 2, by exercise. A poet can be a poet also by exercise. It is a hard nut to crack. To be a poet is a hard nut to crack. It's not a bed of roses. Okay? Anyone who wants to be a great poet must do and must practice too much, must do some exercise of writing poetry. The third important qualification in the poets is the art of imitation. The poet must know how to reflect what he observes. Okay? The poets who are living in this world, in this society, they observe them, they observe the life of the people, and the poet must be able to imitate them properly in his poetry. So 3 things we discussed. Number 1, a poet becomes a poet by nature, means he must have some natural qualities. Number 2, a poet becomes a poet by practice, by exercise. And number 3, he says a poet becomes a great poet by the art of imitation. 1 minute. Art of imitation. And 4th thing he discusses is about the study, because being a poet is not a simple thing. A poet must have some knowledge about the different literatures of the world. He must be a well-read man. He must be a scholar. He must have some knowledge, basic knowledge about different philosophies of the world, about the ancient scriptures, about the different mythologies in different cultures. So, a poet must be a well-read person. So, he must study deeply the art of writing poetry, and also he must also study the different literatures, different cultures, different mythologies, different philosophies of the world. And number 5 is art. The poet must also master himself in the in presenting his art, because art of presentation is also very important. So these 5 things are the 5 important qualities of a great poet. I repeat them again. Number 1, nature. By nature he must have some qualities. He must be a gifted man. Number 2, by exercise, by practice. Number 3, by imitation he becomes a great poet. He must know how to imitate well. And number 4, he says the poets must study well, the poets must read well. And number 5 is art. Okay. He also believed that poetry is actually an outcome of training and practice. This question has been a question since time immemorial in all literatures. Many a times people ask us whether the poets are born or poets are made. Some critics believe that the poets are inborn. They have some inborn qualities through which they write poetry. One cannot be a poet by practice. This is one idea. Another idea, some other critics believe that the poets are made. They believe that art of writing poetry is an art which can be learned by training, by practice. And Ben Jonson also goes in the same line and says that the art of writing poetry can be learned by practice, can be learned by training. But at the same time, don't forget that he has also talked about the 5 qualities: nature, exercise, imitation, study, and art. But at the same time, every poet, according to Ben Jonson, needs some practice, needs some training. A poet or a maker should have some good natural wit. Wit means intelligence. That's what I told you just now. He believes in these things. He believes in Bacon's statement. Bacon, in one of his essays, Of Studies. Of Studies is the title of the essay written by Francis Bacon. Bacon said that reading maketh a fool man. That means reading makes a fool man. So, Ben Jonson also agrees with Bacon and says that if a person wants to be a great poet, he must read well, because reading makes him a perfect poet. Knowledge of the world, knowledge of other literatures, knowledge of other cultures, knowledge about other mythologies, knowledge about other philosophies of the world. This is the dire need when a person wants to be a great poet. Ben Jonson has also discussed about the style of writing poetry and drama. Right? Ben Jonson was not much happy with the extravagant expression of the Elizabethan writers. The Elizabethan writers were very extravagant in their presentation, in their expression while writing poetry and drama, and Ben Jonson was not much happy with this. Words, according to him, mean thoughts. Words are like the relationship between body and soul, and words are lifeless without soul. So he wants to say that the words, because what is the tool of expression for the poet, for the dramatist? The tool is the use of words. Okay. And he said that these words should be so so powerful that it must have the capacity to express the soul of the author. Okay, and that's why he says that to use the words one should require some necessities. What necessities? He says these necessities to read the best authors, observe the best speakers, and exercise on his own. If you want to master the art of writing, art of presentation, if any poet wants to express his ideas, his thoughts, his emotions in the most impressive manner, according to him, according to Ben Jonson, he says that one must read the best authors of the world. The poet must read them. He must try to observe the best speakers, how they present their ideas. The best speakers of the world, great orators of the world. They must be observed by the poets. And number 3, he says that one must do enough exercise of writing. So 3 things about the style. He says that number 1, he said that the choice of words should be very important in writing poetry and drama. The words must be chosen in such a manner that it has the capacity to express your soul, your ideas in the effective manner. And for that, how to choose proper words for expression. For that, he talks about the 3 things. He says that you read the works of the great authors of the world, how they are doing it, how they are expressing their ideas. Number 1. Number 2, the poet must also observe the great orators, the great speakers of the world. And number 3, he said that the poet must do much exercise on his own if he wants to master the art of writing poetry. So these 3 things, he discusses in his discoveries, in his timbers. Moreover, in his timber, Ben Jonson also gives his own judgment, his own estimates on Francis Bacon and William Shakespeare. Francis Bacon, the prince of English essayists, had written many important essays, right? He is a noted essayist of the Elizabethan age. And William Shakespeare, the father of English tragedy, the most important dramatist of English literature. Ben Jonson has presented his comments on these 2 important writers of the Elizabethan age in his discoveries. Ben Jonson talks about Montaigne, Edmund Spenser, Christopher Marlowe, Philip Sidney, John Donne, Francis Bacon, William Shakespeare, and so on. According to Jonson, Bacon spoke neatly, more weightily, and suffered less emptiness and idleness. Bacon's essays are considered as very brief essays, and Bacon's ideas are presented in very short sentences, brief sentences, and that's why Bacon's essays are bursting. They directly appeal the heart of the reader. So he praises Bacon for his brevity, for his clarity of ideas. Another important thing he talks about is on Shakespeare. He says that William Shakespeare is an honest and open-natured poet. He has brave notions and gentle expressions. He also praises William Shakespeare's wit or intelligence. Okay? And he has more virtues than vices. He says that William Shakespeare has more virtues than vices. Now, why he is talking about the virtues and vices here? Because Elizabethan age was the period. It was a time when some moral and immoral both kinds of literature were produced by various writers. But in William Shakespeare, mostly we find literature which is moral, literature which talks about the virtues, and that's why he says that Shakespeare is more of virtues than the vices. Uh, Here we come to the end of all the ideas presented by Ben Jonson in his Timber. Okay, but at the end we can say that he mostly borrowed his ideas from Aristotle and Horace, right? Shakespeare and Bacon, he talks about Shakespeare and Bacon had their own lights to guide them, but not the other writers. Johnson, in his criticism, addresses to the other English writers also. Okay, to judge a poet, one must be at best the poet. And he talks about, as far as the qualifications of a poet, he talks about the 5 important things, okay, which we just now discussed. But at the end, we can say that Ben Jonson's criticism, we can use the word the curb, the necessity of submission to a code of conduct both on the part of the writer and the critic. Ben Jonson proves himself to be a very good link between the author and the critic. He not only talks about what a poet is or what makes a poet, he also talks about some of the important theories of unity of action, unity of time, unity of place, and he suggests something to the critic also. So he addresses both the author, the poet, and the critic. Here we come to the end of the discussion on Ben Jonson's ideas, Ben Jonson's views on poetry and drama. Thank you.